Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I am Marvette, and today we're going to be talking about shadow work. Now, shadow work might be a term you may have heard. It's been thrown around. Maybe you tried to read something, watch a video, and you're like, I don't know. And simply, I just look at shadow work as the interrogation of the unconscious mind. Those were fancy words. It just means that you are going to explore what has been hidden from your conscious brain. Our brains are amazing. It is constantly scanning our environments. It's taking in information. It's like, oh, okay, that's a tree, or that's a long thing that's up in the sky. It's brown. Sometimes it has green things hanging from it. Sometimes it doesn't. Your brain stored that and put it in a file folder, let's say. And it just has many of these different file cabinets and folders. I'm probably dating myself with that example, but go with me. It has these different file folders and cabinets, and it's just tracking all this information. And the brain is trying to find connections and patterns across all this information that it's collecting. And this job, the reason why it's doing that is because it's concerned with how is this information we're taking in, how is it going to help us to survive? Your brain is number one goal is for you to survive, is to look out for danger. So you know if you need to run, you need to fight, you need to hide, you need to find some other strategy to survive. Number two, your brain also loves to use the least amount of energy as possible. It loves efficiency. Okay. It loves it. It loves to be efficient. So that's why you don't consciously have to think about breathing or your heart beating or your food metabolizing or the other 50 million things that go on in the body. You're not consciously aware of that. That's in the background and your unconscious is just on automation. In the same way that breathing or heartbeats and pressure regulation is happening in the background, so too are the habits that you have throughout your day. So that's why we can brush our teeth and listen to a podcast, or we can get in a car and drive home from work and not have to really pay attention to the route because we've done it so many times and our brain has made that an automation and it's happening unconsciously. That sometimes can be scary, but it is what it is. So that also means our patterns in the way that we socialize with people and how we socialize with ourselves, meaning the relationships that we have with ourselves and the relationships we have with other people. When you do shadow work, you are going into the depths of your filed folders and information that your brain has collected, and you're trying to see what is all there. It's kind of like you're doing a closet clean out. You're like, this is the day I'm going to clean. I'm going to take out everything in this closet and I'm going to organize it. I'm going to sift through it and I'm going to see what things do I need to throw away, what things do I need to donate, what things I'm going to keep and put it back. Instead of thinking about clothes and shoes, I want you to think about emotions, fears, desires, different characteristics and traits that you have that you may consider to be negative or unwanted. Because our brain doesn't want to be in pain, it loves to just feel good. It doesn't want you to consciously be aware of all the ways that you show up or all the characteristics that you may have that are unfavorable. We'll use that word. But when you engage in shadow work, you're like, no, I want the ugly. I want the nasty. I want the deep. I want all the things and pieces about myself to come to the surface so I can know. So I can know how I fully show up in this world. This work, y'all, is not for the weak, okay? Healing is, I get that people make it seem like, oh, it's so great and bubble baths and it's fine. Healing work, shadow work, you need to be ready, friend. And I'm not saying that to completely scare you to say don't do this. I just don't want folks to, I feel like a lot of folks just think it's going to be real easy and natural. It's not, because you're intentionally going into the part of the brain that has tried for so long, for so many years to keep you out of it. You're going to the depth. I think about it like the basement. You're going into the basement of your psyche where all the things are hidden and kept out of view that you don't want anyone to see and you don't even want to see. You're going to go into the depths of the basement and clean it completely out. If you ever had to clean out a basement or an old storage unit that's been sitting there for years and years and years, the amount of shit that is hanging out there, then you know what I'm saying. This is what shadow work is. It requires you to face your fears and your insecurities. But listen, on the other side of this, because if you are willing to go through this journey, I cannot express to you how amazing it would be to have this greater self-awareness, the level of growth you will have as a person person. And the ways that you are able to show up in this world unapologetically, shadow work is the key to all your dreams coming true. Right? This is how people do these great feats and they have these great accomplishments, but they get there and they just feel empty and hollow inside because they thought that the award, the trophy, the money, the whatever was going to make them feel amazing, was going to come with all of this growth and these good feelings. Like, yes, it's probably giving you praise and recognition in the larger world, but on the inside, in your mind, you still feel scared and lonely and empty. I think about this with my clients, my dissertation clients. I warn them, you're going to get to the end. People are going to be calling you doctor. You're going to have letters in your email signature, and you still won't feel any different. Nothing probably will change, and you're probably going to go through a deep depressive state after you finish. This has been documented too, like when people win gold medals at the Olympics, they go through this deep, dark depression and sadness and hollowness because all this thing that they have been working tirelessly for, that they've been devoting their life to and every waking second to, now it's over. They did the thing, they achieved the goal, they got the gold medal, and it's kind of like, what's next? They don't have anything left like anchoring them because they put so much attention on this external thing, being the thing that was going to make them feel good. When you engage in shadow work, what you're really doing is building a very authentic and real relationship with yourself. I like to think about it as you're learning how to create a home, a safe home inside of you that no matter what happens outside of you, you're good. You can't be rocked, you can't be shaken because that home lives in you. It's not attached to an external goal or money or recognition or title. So while this work can be excruciating, it can also be greatly rewarding because think about that. If you just wake up and you're going through life and it's like, it doesn't matter what happens, I'm good. It doesn't matter who says what. It doesn't matter who leaves me. It doesn't matter what failure happened. It doesn't matter what good thing happened. It doesn't matter what award people gives me. I'm not shaken or rocked by any of it because I'm good on the inside. I'm stable on the inside. One of my favorite ways to initiate shadow work is to have people to journal. And my clients complain about it all the time. They're like, journal? I will not journal. And I'm like, I don't need you to just say, today, let me tell you about my day. Let me tell you a story about my day. I just need you to empty out your thoughts. I need you to take out a sheet of paper and just brainstorm like a thought. Like, today I'm tired. I want to go back to bed. Maybe I should have Cheerios. Oh, don't forget to get the clothes from the cleaners. This is a stupid exercise. That's what I mean. Like, I just want you to, whatever your brain is saying, you just write it out on the page. And I ask them to do this every morning, 10 minutes or less. And it's going to feel real silly at first. It's going to be like, what is this going to do? The more you allow yourself to do that, the more that you will start to clean out your proverbial unconscious closet, if you will. The way that we clean out the closet, right? So, you want to take everything out and you have to sort through what you're going to throw away, what you're going to keep, what you're going to donate. You got to take it all out to do that. So that in the same way, you got to clean out your unconscious. You got to take everything out the basement. You got to start bringing out those thoughts because there are voices in your head for most of us, because now I'm learning from Twitter, some of us don't have voices in our heads, and I am very perplexed by that. I'm like, it's just quiet in your brain. How is that possible? Let me get back on track. Wait, there are thoughts circulating on our brains that a lot of them we don't even know are there because we're just so used to hearing it. I think it said something like 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day that we think as humans. And majority of those are just repeated thoughts, which is why we don't even know that we're thinking those thoughts as much as we are, because it's in the background. Our unconscious brain put it on automation. And now you're trying to stop the automation process and bring out those thoughts. So when you do this process on a daily basis, you're cleaning it out. You will start to see, if you allow yourself to do this every morning, you will start to see some patterns. You'll start to see like, oh, there's some darkness there, girl. Darkness. It's like, oh, let me go burn up everything. It's like, what? Where did it come from? It's just your brain. But the more you start to write those things out, the more you start to see there's some thoughts there, some emotions. Because the more you can see, like you empty out your brain and you can see that in black and white, the more your brain will start to say, okay, how else is this showing up? Do we have behaviors? And I want to warn you that at the beginning of this process, it's going to feel very earth shattering. In the same way that you're like, oh, let me go clean out the hall closet. It shouldn't take me that long. It's not even that big, right? And you start to pull out coats and luggage and brooms and random decorations, and you take everything out that closet and it's scattered around the living room, and you see how much stuff is out. You're like, how did all of that fit into that tiny closet? And if you're anything like me or my friends, you just get overwhelmed and you say, I'll come back to it later. You're like, I bit off too much that I could chew. The same way that's true for cleaning out the closet, the same is true when you start cleaning out your mind. You are going to learn some things. You're going to see some things for the first time that you didn't know were there. And it's going to maybe cause you to be very, what's the word? Like hypercritical or hyper vigilant about you. You might get really insecure. You might start second guessing yourself as you're interacting with other people, because your brain, your conscious brain is now like, oh shit, have they been seeing this and I didn't see this? So let me give you an example. Say you're someone who's really hard on yourself. Like you just pick yourself apart because you know you want to show up a certain way, you have a certain goal. And to even contextualize this even more, say you're someone who's very critical of yourself as a coach, because I do work with coaches. So let's a life coach. You're very critical of how you show up on social media. You have to have your hair done. You have to have makeup on. Your clothes have to be a certain way. Maybe you write out everything that you're going to say and you read it so that you can make sure you are on point and you're not getting distracted. Maybe you're very particular about when you meet with clients and that you don't eat on calls and you prepare for them for 2 hours, right? Let's just say that's the example. You're someone who's very critical. And then you decide, oh, I'm going to engage in shadow work, and you start to pay more attention to that. When we start to pay more attention to how we're showing up on camera, how we're showing up on social media, you will naturally start to say, why do I do this? Why must I have my hair done and my makeup done in order to go on camera? Why must I not eat on calls? Why must I fill in the blank? And whatever answer your brain's going to give you, you have to sit with that answer. And sometimes that answer is because you're not good enough, because nobody would sign up with you if you just showed up on camera and you were unprofessional, because people would think you don't know what you're doing, right? Your brain will answer. And that answer is a key to thoughts and the emotions and behaviors that are ruling your life. Those things about you have to do this, like you have to have the makeup and the hair because no one will buy from you. You have to write out your script and read that because you can't trust yourself. Like we don't know what we're talking about, so we got to read it. Those are the things that are running your life. It's why you put the makeup on, right? Does it make sense? Like it's coming full circle. But if you never knew that was the things that were running your life, you just take it for granted of like that's just how the world works. And you would think, doesn't everyone like work that way? Don't everyone know that you're supposed to have your hair done and your makeup if you're gonna show up? You might be looking at me now. You might be looking at this video being like, this girl did not do her hair or her makeup, and here she is. Don't she know that's the rule? It's only because you were not aware of that was a rule that you made probably a very long time ago as a child. But that was a rule that you made, and you thought because you were not aware of it, you thought like everyone was operating from the same thing. And if someone went against how you thought the world should be, you just thought that maybe they were unclassed or uneducated or that they just didn't know any better. And it might never occur to you that people have their own rules and it's separate. Now, you might listen to me saying like, well, duh, that makes sense. It's silly. Unconsciously, you don't know. That's why shadow work is important. Unconsciously, you think everyone is operating from the same rules. And that is why we get frustrated with other people, or we judge other people, or we're like, oh, she showed up on camera like that, because that's what we would say to ourselves. So we would definitely say that about other people. We getting deep, y'all. We are getting deep because I want to do a series. Let's say another example would be you in your everyday life, you have acquaintances, you have people that you talk to here and there, maybe some people that you just like their posts, or maybe you go like, say A or something on their comment on a Facebook post or something. But it ain't really that deep. It's not like y'all going on vacation together. It's not like y'all telling each other your deepest, darkest secrets, right? But most of your social network is like that. And maybe you got like one person that you might consider a friend, and even you don't even trust them really. So that's how you are in your regular life. When you start to do shadow work, you start to ask yourself, why is that? People seem to put so much emphasis on having friendships. I don't really have friendships. Why is that? Like, and you might hear this voice that said, we don't really get along with people. That's not who we are. We like to be alone. We're a deep introvert. And then you might say, okay, but why? As you continue to do shadow work, but why are we introverted? Why do we like to be alone? And then if you listen closely, you may hear a voice that says, because people always hurt you, because people always leave you. You can't trust people. They're liars. And that is the key, because if you're operating off of beliefs of people will always hurt you, you can't trust them, they're liars, then it makes sense why in your conscious everyday life, you don't get close to people. The shadow work then prompts you to say, is it true that you can't trust anyone? Is it true that everyone lies? Is it true that you can't get close to people because they're going to hurt you or leave you? Is that always true? And for a lot of us, because this is some of my work, like a lot of us, it would be, yeah, that's true. It's too scary to think otherwise. It's too dangerous to think otherwise. Why is it dangerous? Because maybe when you were 3 or 4, your parents left you. Maybe when you were 3 or 4, your parents were living their own life and they left you in the house to fend for yourself, or they dropped you off at somebody else's house and they never came back. And because our parents are our first relationships, it is our first teacher, it is the first thing that the unconscious brain gets to attach to, the first pieces of information that it files in the file cabinet. It's like, of course, if my parents didn't want me, why would anyone else want me? But that has been buried so deep in your basement, your unconscious basement, that you don't know that is what you're operating from, that your 3 to 4-year-old self is ruling your 40-year-old self, your 30-year-old self. You may think, no, I'm grown. I've been doing this. I'm great. I know right from wrong, and I just know that you can't trust people. But what you're not recognizing is that it's not you. You are operating from a script that your 3 to 4-year-old self made up. Shadow work brings that out. This is why, and I want to caution you, you don't want to do shadow work alone. You don't want to get real deep into it by yourself. You can, but here's the thing, when you might come across something that might shatter your whole image of yourself, and if you don't have anyone to help you, it gets dangerous. You get to dark places. Shadow work, while it can be very powerful, it can be harmful if you don't have the right supports around you. So I encourage you, like, if you're going to be doing your shadow work, make sure your therapist is on board, okay, friend? Get a therapist, get someone who's trained in this to help you. I wanted to release this video because I was someone who was like, people keep talking about this term and I don't know what it means. And I wanted to tell you what it means. But let me know your thoughts and questions down below. I'll do my best to answer them and point you in a direction for resources. But that's going to do it. I'm going to come back and do more videos on shadow work, but that's going to do it for me today. Okay, bye, y'all.